in light of the fact that they lose Game 4, should John Wall try to get back quicker than maybe he would otherwise if they were up 3-1?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you've watched the previous two games, they've been in winnable situations without him. And I think that if you're thinking about a team like this that has enough moving parts to beat the #1 seed at least once at home and hold them relatively close, even though that game sort of probably ended not the way they wanted it to, not just in terms of the win, but the loss in terms of other things. No, there's no need to rush back. They can keep up with the Hawks. The next opponent, you never know what's going to happen to them in their old series. Let it be.
What do you think about that, Adam? Is John Wall needed right now?
Yeah, it's a really tricky situation because that particular injury, the bones are so small and the breaks can be in such different ways, and swelling plays into it, pain threshold plays into it. So it's hard to sort of make a blanket statement about how much of a risk it is or what. But I think overall, though, no, he should not rush back. I think maybe if they're facing elimination, maybe then. But I think as long as they can play with, more or less like house money, they should sort of keep doing what they're doing. Because like Clinton's totally right. I mean, they could have won last night. And who knows how effective Wall will be with basically 1.5 hands. I mean, it is his offhand, but one of his best.
You got to play defense with it.
And one of his strengths too is he's like really excellent at finishing at the rim with his left hand. It seems like he prefers to finish with his left more than his right sometimes. So I think, I think they're better off as a franchise, certainly not risking like really serious damage when the sort of gain seems to be incremental anyway.
Well, Neil, should Wizards fans be comfortable without Wall, or should they hope he comes back and plays in Game 5?
The results have shown that they could be optimistic if Wall is not in the lineup, but there's certain things that need to change. Probably the biggest is Ramon Sessions needs to be more of a facilitator than a scorer. He's not creating nearly as many assist opportunities as John Wall did in the playoffs, and that's to be expected when you have a player like John Wall, but it's got to be right now. John Wall was creating 23.6 assist opportunities in the playoffs. Ramon Sessions at 6.2. That's a huge gap. So he's got to be much more. He's got to be much better at dishing out the ball, and that could be the difference, right? Getting into the hands of the actual playmakers on the team could be the difference between a win and a loss. That's what he needs to do.
Well, Clinton, what's the rotation for you? Because we saw this last night. Will Bynum got into the lane and scored. Sessions, I don't think, was as aggressive. Beal played a lot, had the ball in his hands a lot. What is the rotation now without Wall?
I would play Bynum before I would play Sessions, because normally when you have a backup point guard, the idea is that if the starter is playing, you get a change of pace spell. But when he's not available at all, I think you want a point guard that's probably more similar to your starter to begin with. And to me, that's the player that Bynum is. He gets to the rack. If he chooses to dish, which he doesn't often, he can. And that's more similar to Wall, that works better in the offense. And Sessions, to me, should spell secondarily and not the other way around, which is what Whitman has been doing.
I think that's right. I think it's perfectly right. Because like to Neil's stats, I don't think it's because Sessions has to do different things. I think he can't do that stuff. It's not the player is. He's a scorer. He's a scoring point guard, and that doesn't really work with the players they have in the starting lineup. So I think that makes perfect sense to have Bynum be the starter and have Sessions be the sort of like guy who can carry an offense for a few minutes with the second unit.